We are here for our Friday update. Here
Hello.
every Friday, we like to just talk about what we've been thinking throughout the week, what's been going on throughout the week. And so here we are from the Bear Marriage team. We are about to leave on a Bear Marriage cruise in a week. So this is our very first Bear Marriage cruise. So we've got a couple of dozen people coming with us. That's going to be fun. Yeah, so we won't have one in 2 weeks. You might do one alone next week. We're not sure.
Yes.
But this week on the podcast, we shared some of our amazing data from The Marriage You Want about how teamwork works best and hierarchy does not. And it's really incontrovertible. Like, you can't even argue it. It is so incontrovertible that as soon as you think that when a husband and wife disagree, the husband gets to make the final decision. As soon as you act that out, if you go into marriage believing that, if you go into marriage believing that he needs respect in a way that she can never understand, bad things happen. But if you go into marriage thinking, hey, we're going to make decisions together, and you do that, really, really good things happen.
Yeah, and it's not just us who have found that too,
No.
right? This has been repeated throughout literature for decades now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is officially old hat. This is old news. This is
Yeah.
not shocking to anyone outside of the evangelical or conservative religious space.
Right. Like, this is it's just a no-brainer. And I find it so interesting that we still have to defend this and argue it. And what pastors will say is, no, you don't understand complementarianism, which is the belief that men are in authority over women, helps women because the husband sacrificially lays down his life, for her to lead her. And it's like, why do you have to be in charge to sacrificially lay down your life? Do you think that wives don't sacrificially lay down their lives?
Exactly. Or also, like, what does laying down your life look like objectively? Because we know that the more egalitarian a marriage is, the more likely the husband is to be an involved, like,
Dad,
cook, housekeeper, support his wife in her career. Sounds like the egalitarians are the ones laying down their lives in real time. Sounds to me like the complementarians are the ones saying, well, theoretically I would, but I'm not actually do that because that's a pink job.
Yeah, it's like he'll die for you, but he won't do the dishes.
Exactly.
Yes, and that is the title of a Substack article that I have coming out, I think in 2 weeks, maybe next week. I think next week. So if you are not subscribed to my Substack, please do that. Just another... I know we've said this before, but social media has really changed in the last month. The algorithms have changed.
And it's only going to keep getting weirder.
And so it's really hard to get my stuff out there. So if you love us, YouTube is doing better for us.
Yeah.
But if you love us, please share this video. Please share all of our stuff. We're going to be doing some shorter videos soon on different topics, just so that they get out there. And follow me on a social media platform you don't currently follow me on. So follow me on Substack. Follow me on Blue Sky or on Threads or on Instagram or wherever. Facebook is tanking right now. But keep in mind when you see someone you like all of their stuff, because people really need that engagement. Oops, sorry about that.
But most of all, make sure that you're on the newsletter, okay? Because that's the easiest way that we can get a hold of you. That's the easiest way that you can make sure you have a direct line to what we're doing right now. If there's ever anything really exciting, like a new survey coming out that you can be a part of, or like a new book.
Yeah, and we'll put those podcast links. We'll put those links in the podcast notes. Okay, so this week, what was really funny is that after that podcast came out on Thursday, I was hit with a deluge of men upset about it. And I actually thought we would get more hate mail after the podcast 2 weeks ago, where we took down love and respect definitively, where we showed how the whole math behind it doesn't work. The survey question doesn't work. It's all based on nothing. But no, it was this week where we were saying, hey, complementarianism has bad outcomes, that everybody was saying and was coming at me. And I had several guys on different platforms with really long messages, really long. They were sure they were taking me down, and they thought this was a mic drop moment. Okay, they thought this was the definitive argument that I could not argue against. And they said, but Sheila, what do you do when there's a decision that has to be made and you just don't agree? You obviously need somebody to break the tie. And that is why God put men in authority, so they could break those ties. Like, for instance, what if there's a deadline and you have to decide what school you're going to sign your children up to? And you can't decide. That's when he has to break those ties. Or what if it's something you just can't agree on, like whether or not to have another child? Then he's the one who's got to break that tie. And I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, it's so interesting you think that's a mic drop moment.
It's just so telling how you don't understand how telling that is.
Yeah, because the vast majority of people function without a tiebreaker. We've been married for 33 years and we've never needed Keith to break the tie.
10 years in July for us.
No, because people figure stuff out. And I've asked this a bunch on social media. Hey, like, when you disagree, how do you come to a decision? And people have given all kinds of different strategies they use, and it varies by what it is. But That's what happens in real life, is there's some give and take, there's some nuance, but to just simply arbitrarily say, no, when you disagree, he makes the decision, you know what that leads to? Shortcuts.
Yeah.
It leads to short-circuiting communication.
What's ended up happening is that these men who think, well, you need a tiebreaker because there's no way to do it. The reason they think that's because they have actually atrophied their relational muscles.
Yes.
Right? These are all alpha men type. Let's talk about gym terms, okay?
Yeah.
So, you've been working with bad form your whole marriage. You've been lifting wrong. You've been using bad form. So as a result, some muscles are overworked, such as your plow over your wife's opinion muscles. And some muscles are underworked, such as the communicate muscles. And that's genuinely how it is. Our brains and the way that we interact with other people does actually, we learn and adapt and grow the same way that you can learn, adapt, and grow how to use your actual physical body. And if you're saying, no, there's something that is just not possible to do, that the majority of people are claiming, no, it is possible to do, the same way that I say it's impossible for me to do a chin-up.
Yeah.
And people are like, no, like chin-ups are possible. But for me, because I haven't done the work and I've allowed those muscles to atrophy, I can no longer do a chin-up.
I could never do one, by the way, but yes.
Yeah, I used to be able to do 7 in a row, and I'm very proud of that. I'm going to get back there. But, but don't let your relational muscles atrophy because you've been told by a bunch of other relationally lazy people, well, chin-ups are impossible anyway. They're not. There's tons of people who can do them. You've just got to do the work. You've got to stop being lazy.
Yeah. But I felt this whole week as I was talking to these guys, it's like trying to explain the color green to someone who's colorblind. Right? Like you can't do, because it's like they can't even see it. And it's like, wow, do you not realize what this says about you? And that's what I kept coming back to. You know, do you not realize that what you are admitting is that you do not have a good marriage? You do not have an intimate marriage. You do not even understand what intimacy is. And they don't realize it. And I think about that of all of these pastors who teach this stuff. You know, do they not realize what they're admitting about themselves?
Well, also, like, are they not able to think logically about it? Like, Connor and I have never needed a tiebreaker. Ever. There's also been times where I'm like, can you please just make this decision? That's not the same thing.
No.
Or like there's times where he's like, I'm gonna be very honest, I don't care and you do. Can you make this decision? Right? Like, it's not like everything has to be a model UN discussion either.
No.
Like again, this stuff is so obvious and so easy when you just care about your spouse and you want to make logical good choices. It's like, Connor does not need to check with me before getting plumbing equipment because I'm like, oh my gosh, please don't make me think about plumbing equipment. But at the same time, like, he doesn't get to just like, this is so obvious. It's painful.
And that's the thing,
it's
right?
Painful.
Like 78.9% of couples make decisions together, and the fact that they can't see it is wild. So that was one thing that happened this week. The other thing is in this week's podcast, I played a clip from Cynthia Westfall, who's a professor at McMaster Divinity School, and she's been part of the translation committee for the CEB, the Common English Bible. She does a lot of the work on the Pauline letters. Really, really amazing woman. And she was on 5 years ago to talk about Ephesians 5:33.
Wow, that long ago. Gosh.
Yeah, when we first started talking about love and respect, and she was saying how the English. So Emerson Eggerichs in Love and Respect based this whole book on two things. One is the faulty study that we told you about, and the other is Ephesians 5:33, which we think says, you know, husbands, love your wives, and wives, respect your husbands. But she says in the Greek it doesn't say that. And she was explaining in this like, I think 12-minute clip, that in the Greek it's not an and. You know, when we did like conjunction junction, what's your function,
hooking up
words and phrases and clauses, you know, like and, but, or. So we look at that thing and we think there's an and in there, but there isn't an and in there. There's
it's a conditional article, right?
And the verb form for wives respect your husbands, it's a subjunctive because it's a heinous subjunctive clause, which you don't need to understand what that means, okay? But most of the times when it appears in the Bible, it's translated in order that or so that. Like, for God so loved the world, that he gave his only son, so that whosoever believeth in him, like that kind of an idea. It's a conditional subjunctive clause. And so she said, when you actually read this in Greek, it says, husbands love your wives in order that wives respect their husbands, which is a very different meaning. It completely contradicts the entire premise of the book Love and Respect.
Yeah, because the entire premise is on unconditional respect, unearned respect that you just have because it's God's design for women to respect.
And that God has commanded women to respect their husbands. God never commanded women. What he was saying is, men, if you want your wife to respect you, love her.
Like, be a respectable person.
Yeah, that's what God was saying.
Yep.
And yet that is not what we've been taught. And so God did, and I was talking about this a bit on social media, and I am going to post that clip tomorrow on YouTube, just that clip of Cynthia Westfall, and I'll do some reels on it too. And on TikTok, so join me on TikTok. I'm over there. Sheila Ray Greg, we're on TikTok. But a woman on Facebook was saying, are you telling me that this has been mistranslated and hurting people for 2,000 years? And it's like, yeah. And that's why she's having a hard time believing it. Because she's like, if this was real, wouldn't they have caught it by now? But remember that it took like 1,900 years of Christianity for slavery to be officially outlawed in the United States. And slavery is still going on throughout the world. Like, Jesus said that a little yeast works through the whole batch of dough, but it takes a while.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the yeast was there, but it doesn't mean that it's completely worked its way through yet. So we gotta just keep pushing, but that is what the Greek says. All right, as we wrap up, I want to share some fan mail.
Sure.
Yeah, so we've been really busy in the Marriage You Want launch team. So our book is out March 11th and the launch team is ready to go. If you want to join it, just send your pre-order receipt to preorder@marriageyouwantbook.com and you will get a link to join the launch team where you can start reading the book immediately. And one of the people have been leaving comments in the launch team who have started reading it. And one of them was, that my favorite one was, you guys are both relatable and also very intelligent.
Yeah, here, I have it screenshotted so you get the exact wording.
Okay.
Yeah, here's what the person said. Just look, my phone has 8,000 photos on it because my mom's. Take a second. Here you go. I really like how intelligent but approachable the writing is in this book. It's like, yeah, that was good.
Yeah, so that's great. And then someone else sent me this through our podcast fan mail. I want to say thank you for your podcast and books. I'm still sifting through and trying to figure out how to deal with the messages I've received and ideas that are still taught in our evangelical circles. But what I can't deny is the progress my husband and I have made after just reading 2 chapters of The Good Guy's Guide to Great Sex. And kudos for how you wrote it, because his brain type has a very hard time reading books that are usually so full of other people's stories, and he just does not relate to that type of writing. He's getting through your book very quickly and bringing stuff up to talk about. So again, thank you.
That's awesome.
And this is what I like. Men like our books.
Yay!
Men like our books.
Because women have been reading self-help books for generations, right?
Yeah.
Like, we need to get, it's great when you can get some that the men also want to read.
Yeah, but men actually do like our books. There's lots of charts to see in all of our books, and especially in The Marriage You Want. So check it out and follow us on other social media. And Becca needs some sleep.
I do.
So we will go. Until next week. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.